All right. So let's talk about the real estate. I'll tell you this story. I'm like 10 years old, right? And we're I don't know, the next year I think it was, we were gonna go do carpentry work, right? But we were learning about real estate. And so I get this idea. I'm like, oh man, that's what I'm gonna do. You know, I'm gonna own all these houses, right? And charge people rent. Well, then this was like a ongoing thing with me and the teachers after the class because I had this bright idea and they were like, doesn't work that way, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. In my mind, I had the perfect family, the perfect tenant, and the places were beautiful, and um, you know, they asked me, well, how are you gonna get the money for all this? I said I'd use your money, and then I'll pay you, double or something, or interest, And they were like, okay, okay. If you think you can get all these people, I said, yeah. So then I we learned about solar panels, right? So I'm thinking, hey, if I could be the electric company and I own all these houses, it's like a game they'd play with me. They'd say, hey, you got a tenant that moved out on you. He smashed out all the windows. What are you gonna do? I said, well, I have to repair them. Like, oh, that's an expense. You're in a negative. They'd run like a tally, and like, hey, somebody moved out, but they didn't do anything. They actually left a couple things and they fixed a couple things. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna sell the things or are you gonna keep them there? I said, no, just keep them there for the next family that moves in. They're like, all right, well, how are you gonna get somebody to move in? I said, well, we'll have to put a sign out, and we'll have to advertise somewhere. Oh, that costs money. They're teaching me. I'm like, oh, all right. But anyways, then I put the solar panels on these, you know, imaginary homes, and I have free electricity at these houses. That's what my offer is, you know. And they're like, hey, Ryan, inflation's going up. I'm like, well, what's inflation? What do you mean? And, you know, there's not a lot of people that can explain inflation. There's not a lot of people that understand it. Um, I understand it, but it's hard to explain, you know. Um, but it doesn't matter. Um, so, anyways, they said, "Oh, prices are going up, and you gotta have to do something to make some more money." I said, "Well, let's go get another house. If can we find another house? Maybe we can get one cheaper." And they taught me about the sheriff's sales. So what's happening is, people they can't pay. They own the house, right? But you still have to pay taxes. So, you know, houses were invented by banks, right? Keep this concept. Houses were invented by banks to make banks money. Now, how do they do that? Well, they give you the loan for the house, right? Now, you got to pay, a certain percent, 10%, 15% down, right? Beforehand, you know, generally. And they give you the money for the house. You pay that person. The house isn't yours yet, it's the bank's. Until you have paid that debt, then they charge you taxes. So it's like paying rent, right? Well, people were doing great for a while, and then they get this house, they got their car, they got all these payments. That's why I don't like payments at all. And then something happens, you know. Hey, they're working 100 hours a week. I'm a prime example. I was working 100 hours a week. I was working 84 hours for a company, and then coming home and then working out of my house, in the driveway for vehicles I was going to buy 4 apartments, which I'm glad I didn't. It's the ugly duckling. There's a lot of problems and it's not worth it. $30,000. Okay, yeah, $30,000 doesn't seem that much for 4 units. You know, $500 a month. That's $2,000 a month if you could get 4 perfect renters. Well, I haven't seen 4 people in this building yet. You know, and the rent is very cheap. I mean, you know, you look at New York City right now for a single bedroom, $6,000 a month for a single bedroom in New York City. I don't know how they're paying that because they ain't making. There's no way they're making that much money. People are making that much money, so somebody's paying that somewhere, you know. But where I live, it's a little bit cheaper. You can get a house, 800 or $1,000 a month. But anyways, back to my story. So, you know, um, then we're going along, and I couldn't get into positive with this imaginary real estate with my teachers, and they would laugh at me sometimes because I'd get mad, because in my mind these people were like real people that like, hey, Jerry here, one of your renters dropped off the rent today, and he also wanted to tell you that he wanted to ask you if he could put a big screen TV in on the wall, and I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this guy was like the perfect tenant that they had me imagined, and here he didn't do it right, and the TV fell on him, and I got to pay his medical bills. I didn't like that. I'm like, oh man, I felt bad, and I said, I don't want to do it anymore. I mean, there was more stories. There was times. There was more than one time that I did that. That they did that, and there was a lot of times though that it was good, and I was almost in the positive, but I could never get ahead still, And they're like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" I said, "Looks like I'm gonna have to take a job, guys." And then years went by, and you know, I had thought about it, but I had focused on my schooling. I went to electronics engineer to be an electronics engineer. I did 2 years of that, and I actually decided I wanted to focus on that. And if I could get an invention, you know, get a patent, things like that, then I could have some money coming in because I own the product, then I can get into, my plan from 20 years ago. But um, I think that's it on this one. Um, you know, this is real stories. This is me. You know, I know where I want to go. I know where I'm trying to head to, but I don't know if you know, I don't know exactly what's gonna happen tomorrow. I do know where I'm going. I've been successful, therefore I can be successful. And right now I'm focused on online business, which is something new for me.